The night the red dragon pack crossed into human territory, the sky burned like a funeral pyre. Their wings beat thunder into the clouds, their roars shook the mountain bones, and every creature with any sense hid or fled. Every creature except one. A lone human sat beside a dying campfire, sharpening a knife that had already seen too much war. His name was Jonas Hale, ex-frontier ranger, part-time mechanic, full-time trouble magnate. Gray in the beard, scar across the jaw, eyes that had seen the kind of battles no history book dared record. He should have been terrified. He should have been running. He should have been ashes on the wind. Instead, he muttered, "If they wake the babies, I swear I'm cooking a dragon tail for breakfast." He didn't look up when the sky split with flame. He didn't have to, because two tiny red-scaled hatchlings were snoring softly on his chest, curled like oversized lizards with wings. One kicked in its sleep. The other drooled molten saliva onto his shirt. Jonas just patted its head. Yeah? Daddy's here. Don't melt the flannel." He didn't notice the shadows descending until the forest trembled. The red dragon pack had arrived for blood. The first dragon hit the ground with a crater-sized impact, molten eyes locked on the human. This one was enormous, 18 meters nose to tail, wings like tattered banners of war. Its scales were dark crimson, its horns jagged as obsidian spears. The pack leader, Veros the Flame Tyrant, scourge of 6 systems, devourer of armies. And right now he looked confused. His gaze slid to the 2 hatchlings sleeping on Jonas's chest. A rumble shook the air. Not fury. Not yet. Shock. Then pure, incandescent rage. "Who dares?" Veros roared. "Tio lay hands upon the blood of the Skyforged? Human, have you grown tired of living?" Jonas sighed. "Look, big guy. They walked into my camp. I gave them food. They decided my chest was a mattress. Believe me, I didn't sign up for this. You dare speak as if you have a choice?" Another dragon landed behind its leader. Then 3 more. Then 8. A whole damned flight. The trees bowed under their heat. The night air rippled with lethal intent. Jonas whispered to the hatchlings. "Kids, I think your family meeting's started." He tried nudging them awake. The hatchlings snored louder. Of course. Red dragons apparently inherited the human talent for sleeping through apocalyptic danger. Veros lowered his head, fangs reflecting the firelight. "Human! You have stolen what is ours. You have touched royal hatchlings of the flame brood. For this crime your death shall be." A tiny yawn cut the night like a miracle. One hatchling blinked its big molten gold eyes, saw Veros, and squeaked with joy. It leapt straight onto his massive snout. Veros's rage froze. Completely. The little one chirked, nuzzled him, then proudly presented a charred piece of Jonas's beef jerky. Jonas waved. "Told you. I fed him." A second hatchling crawled up his shoulder, wings flapping clumsily, and squeaked happily at the entire pack, completely oblivious to the atmosphere of imminent murder. A dozen dragons exchanged looks. Not anger. Not exactly. More like, what in the 7 molten hells is happening? Veros snarled, but there was hesitation. "Explain, human." "Now." Jonas slowly set the hatchlings down. He stood. Old bones cracked. Old scars ached. But his voice was steady. "They were cold and hungry. I helped. That's it. I didn't know they were yours. You should have fled. They were babies. You should have left them. They were crying. You should have died." Jonas shrugged. "I'm not great at doing what I should." Several dragons hissed. One lunged forward, but Veros blocked it with a wing. "Human," the flame tyrant growled. "Humans are weak. Soft. Prey. You do not protect the children of the flame brood. You run." "Old men don't run," Jonas replied. "We either fight or we die. Sometimes both." A pause. Crackling embers. 8 dragons glaring. 2 hatchlings clinging to Jonas's leg like he was their favorite pillow. The tension was coiled enough to snap steel. Then Veros took a long breath. Ancient. Terrible. Human Jonas Hale, you have interfered with our bloodline. Accidentally. You have touched our kin. Gentle Pat, really. You have earned our wrath. Can we not? It's been a long week. Veros's pupils narrowed to slits. Your fate is sealed. Jonas flexed his grip on the knife, but he knew the truth. He might take down one dragon if he got lucky. Maybe two if they lined up stupidly. But a pack? He was a dead man. Still, he squared his shoulders. No running. No begging. Just the quiet steadiness of a man who'd survived too much to fear dying. All right, he said softly. Do your worst. Veros reared back, wings spreading like a rising inferno. The pack raised their heads, fire gathering in their throats. The killing blow was seconds away. And then, a hatchling toddled forward, planted itself between Jonas and the dragons, puffed up its tiny chest, and roared. A baby roar. Pathetic. Adorable. Weak. Yet the pack recoiled as if they'd been struck. Jonas blinked. The hell? Veros stared at the hatchling, eyes widening. Not in anger. In fear. The blood mark? He whispered. The other dragons hissed, shocked. The second hatchling waddled up beside its sibling, wings flared, tail smacking Jonas's boot in a possessive gesture. Veros lowered his massive head, voice trembling. The hatchlings have chosen you. Jonas stared down. Chosen me for what? Veros's eyes glowed like twin suns. Human, he rasped. You are now bound to the Flame Brood. Their protector. Their guardian. Their father. Jonas froze. The pack bowed their heads, not in respect for him, but for the hatchlings who had placed their trust in a human. And just like that, the night changed. No longer a battlefield. A claim. A bond. A coming storm. Veros rose again, towering above Jonas like a living mountain of flame. Human, he declared. If you betray them, we will tear the world asunder to end you. Jonas wiped baby drool off his shirt. Yeah? Get in line. One hatchling squeaked proudly. The other bit Jonas's boot. Veros rumbled deep in his chest. We return at dawn, human. The rite must be completed. What rite? You will learn, Veros said darkly. Or you will burn. The pack took to the sky, vanishing into the night. Jonas stood alone with two hatchlings curled at his feet. He stared at them. They stared back. He sighed. What in God's name did you two get me into? The hatchlings chirped happily. Far above, the dragons roared across the heavens. Tomorrow would bring war. Or something worse. Dawn crawled over the mountains like a wounded beast. Jonas Hale hadn't slept, mostly because two red dragon hatchlings insisted on treating him like a heated mattress. One drooled magma on his ribs. The other snored loud enough to shake pine needles loose. Jonas stared at the sky, waiting. He'd been in war zones where dawn meant airstrikes. He'd been in frontier skirmishes where dawn meant bandits. But dawn had never before meant dragons coming to see if he was worthy of parenthood. He muttered, Should have retired to a beach. But no, Jonas, go camping. Relax, Jonas. What could possibly go wrong, Jonas? A hatchling bit his beard. He flicked it gently. Yeah? Love you too. That's when the air darkened. Wings blotted out the sun. Heat rolled like a furnace door opening. Trees bent. Rocks cracked. The sky itself seemed to bow. The red dragon pack had returned. Veros the flame tyrant landed first, his claws sinking inches into stone. The others formed a tightening semicircle, jaws glowing with internal fire. Jonas stood slowly, placing himself between the pack and the hatchlings. It wasn't bravery. It was instinct, the same instinct that made an old soldier stand between civilians and gunfire. And somehow, those two little lizards had become his civilians. Veros's molten eyes fixed on him. Human Jonas Hale. You stand before the Flame Brood. The hatchlings have chosen you. Now the rite must be tested. Tested how? Jonas asked. Veros's answer was simple. Horrifying. You must prove you can protect them from us. Jonas's grip tightened on his knife. You want me to fight a dozen dragons with a blade older than my ex-wife? Your weapon is irrelevant. Your resolve is what we judge. One dragon chuckled, smoke curling from its nostrils. He dies quickly. Another hissed. The hatchlings were foolish. A third sneered. Humans are frail. Jonas spat in the dirt. For creatures with wings, you all talk a lot of crap. A low murmur rippled through the pack, equal parts offense and intrigue. Veros's face twitched. Was that respect? Or indigestion? The right begins? Veros thundered. Survive until the third flame falls. Jonas frowned. What does that mean? A dragon high above roared, launching a burning orb into the sky. That, Veros said. The orb ignited into a blazing sphere, a burning sun hovering overhead. It would burn for several minutes before darkening. Jonas exhaled. Wonderful. Then the first dragon lunged. Jonas rolled under a sweeping claw the size of a damn tractor. The ground exploded behind him. Heat blasted his skin. He dove behind a boulder that immediately began melting. Kids! He shouted. Stay put! The hatchlings squeaked. They did not stay put. They chased him, chirping happily, completely ignoring the fact their uncles were actively trying to barbecue him. A dragon's tail slammed down where Jonas had been a moment ago, throwing him into the air. He hit the ground hard, breath exploding out of him. Old bones screamed. Old scars burned. The dragons circled. One inhaled deep, preparing a fire blast. Jonas yelled, HFY! You torch me, you toast your own hatchlings! Every dragon froze. The fire-breathing one gagged mid-blast, coughing out a puff of smoke like a broken chimney. Jonas grinned despite the pain. Didn't think that one through, did ya? The pack leader growled. Your mouth is as reckless as your courage. Jonas shrugged. It's gotten me this far. He rolled just as another dragon slammed the ground. He dodged claws, teeth, tails. Every second was a miracle and a curse. His knife flashed once, cutting the tender membrane of a dragon's wing. The beast screeched, flinching back. The other dragons hissed, surprised. Jonas spat blood. Yeah, I can bite too. The burning orb overhead dimmed, first flame fallen. 2 to go. The dragons changed tactics. One pinned him with sheer wind from its wings. Another struck like a hammer. Jonas blocked with his knife, but the impact launched him backward into a fallen log. Pain ripped through his ribs. He gasped, struggling to rise. A dragon loomed over him, jaws opening. The hatchlings screamed. They ran, not away, but toward Jonas, wings flapping uselessly, claws digging into the ground. They jumped onto him, shielding his body with their tiny forms, chirping defiantly. The dragons recoiled again. Veros snarled. Move, whelps! He must fight! The hatchlings growled, a baby sound, but fierce. One bared its little teeth at the pack. The other draped its wings over Jonas as if to say mine. Jonas, half-conscious, whispered, Good kids! The orb overhead dimmed again. Second flame fallen. Only one more. The dragons grew restless. Angry. Conflicted. He is unfit! He cannot stand! He cannot win! Veros raised a claw. Stand back. I will end this. He stepped forward, towering over Jonas. The remaining orb flickered, ready to extinguish. A minute. Maybe 2. Jonas forced himself up. Vision blurred. Pain everywhere. But he stood. Because the hatchling stood with him. He wiped blood from his mouth. If you want me dead, then come take me. Veros hesitated. Something in the human stance. Something in the hatchling's defiance. Something in the absurd, impossible loyalty. The flame tyrant inhaled, fire building. And the final orb burst. The rite ended. Jonas fell to one knee. Veros's fire died in his throat. The dragons froze. The test was over. Jonas had survived. Barely. Stupidly. Beautifully. Veros bowed his head, an ancient gesture not given lightly. Human Jonas hail, he declared, voice echoing across the mountains. The flame brood acknowledges your right. You are the chosen guardian. By fire, blood, and survival, the hatchlings are yours to protect. Jonas winced. Does that come with dental insurance? A few dragons snorted. Actual laughter. Smoky, wheezing laughter. Veros's eyes softened, barely. Rise, guardian. Jonas stood, leaning on his knife like a cane. You have passed the right. Veros continued. But know this, others beyond these mountains will not accept a human bound to dragon royalty. Why not? Because, Veros said darkly, some believe humans are dangerous. Jonas gave him a crooked grin. They're not wrong. The hatchlings squeaked in agreement. Far away, distant thunder rumbled. War was coming. But Jonas Hale was no longer facing it alone. Storm clouds built high over the mountains, bruised purple and streaked with the color of old wounds. Jonas Hale sat on a boulder while the hatchlings climbed all over him like hyperactive toddlers made of scales, claws, and bad decisions. One chewed on his bootlace. The other tried to eat his left glove. Jonas sighed. You two ever think about not chewing everything you see? A hatchling burped, a tiny flame in his face. Jonas wiped his eyebrows. I'll take that as a no. Behind him, the red dragon pack watched in a silence so heavy it felt ceremonial. Or judgmental. Hard to tell with dragons. Veros stood at their center like a monolith carved out of old wars, his presence dominating even the sunrise. Human Jonas Hale. The flame tyrant rumbled. We must speak. Jonas scooted a hatchling off his lap, it clung to his chest hair, and stood. His ribs protested, but he hid the wince. No point looking fragile in front of the world's largest flamethrowers. Veros lowered his horned head. You have survived the right. The hatchlings acknowledge you as guardian. But danger follows such a bond. Jonas cracked his knuckles. I gathered. What sort this time? Local wildlife? Rogue dragons? Your mother-in-law? Half the pack hissed. The other half snorted. Veros blinked slowly. Humor is still being analyzed. Jonas shrugged. Join the club. The flame tyrant gestured with one massive wing toward the horizon. Your world has been noticed. The Black Talon Empire has learned of the hatchlings. They come to claim what is not theirs. Jonas frowned. Black Talon. Sounds like a biker gang. They are worse. Raiders. Slavers. Takers of young blood. They steal hatchlings to raise as war beasts. Jonas's jaw clenched. And they're coming here? Even now, Veros said. Their ships approach. A low hum rolled across the sky, mechanical, unnatural, alien. Jonas's head whipped upward. 3 dark shapes pierced the clouds. Not ships. Dropships. Armored. Armed. Marked with jagged insignia. Jonas's blood turned cold. The dragons raised their wings. Fire stirred in their throats. But Veros did not roar for battle. Not yet. Jonas Hale. He growled. You must decide. If you wish to keep the hatchlings, you ride with us to war. Jonas blinked. Ride? A dragon lowered itself in front of him. A living tank of muscle and molten scale, 20 tons of. This is a terrible idea. Jonas stared. You want me to get on that? The dragon gave a small nod, surprisingly polite for a creature whose bite radius was larger than Jonas's living room. Jonas rubbed his beard. All right. But if I die, I'm haunting every one of you. He grabbed the horns, hauled himself up, and immediately regretted everything. The dragon rose with a powerful thrust of its wings, and Jonas clung on like a man hanging from the roof of a rocket. Then they were airborne. The dropships descended, engine shrieking. A hatch on the nearest one blasted open, revealing armored figures, tall, sinewy, insect-like aliens with blades for forearms and armor molded like black chitin. The Black Talon Raiders. One of them pointed toward Jonas's dragon and screeched a command. Bolts of violet plasma lit the sky. Jonas swore, ducking behind a horn. Oh good, they're shooting already. No negotiation phase? No welcome brochure? The dragon banked sharply. Jonas nearly fell but caught himself, swearing old military oaths that turned the air blue. Veros roared orders, and the pack divided, some going high, some low, some diving straight toward the dropships with terrifying precision. A plasma bolt grazed Jonas's mount, scorching a scale. The dragon shuddered. Jonas felt the panic through the creature's muscles. Hey! Eyes on me! He slapped the dragon's neck, not to hurt, but to focus. Don't you dare fall! I've had worse turbulence on Frontier Airlines! The dragon steadied. Then Jonas saw something that made his stomach drop. One dropship wasn't firing at the dragons at all. It was descending toward the ground. Toward the hatchlings. Jonas's pulse spiked. Oh hell no. He leaned forward, yelling in the dragon's ear. Down! Now! They're going for the kids! The dragon folded its wings and dove. Wind roared. Jonas's face nearly peeled off. Trees rushed up to meet them. The dropship landed with a thud, kicking up dust. Black Talon troops poured out, dozens of them, claws ready, nets glowing with containment fields meant to trap dragon young. The hatchlings froze. One whimpered. The raiders advanced. Jonas's vision tunneled. He'd seen scenes like this before. Not dragons. Humans. Villages burned. Families taken. Children screaming. Not today. Not today. He jumped off the dragon mid-dive. It was a terrible idea. He landed like a collapsing barn, knees screaming in protest, but he stayed upright long enough to swing his knife into the first Black Talon trooper. The blade sank deep between kite and plates. The alien shrieked and fell. Another came at him. Jonas ducked under a blade arm, grabbed a fistful of dirt, and threw it into the alien's eyes, primitive, dirty, effective. The alien screeched, blinded. Jonas buried his knife in its throat. A third raider charged. Jonas had no time to block. A hatchling attacked first. The tiny dragon latched onto the alien's leg, biting with all the fury of a pocket-sized demon. The alien staggered. Jonas slammed it to the ground and crushed its windpipe with his boot. He turned, chest heaving. More Black Talon troops encircled him. 10. Maybe 12. One sneered in a rasping mechanical voice. Human! Move aside! The hatchlings are not yours! Jonas raised his blood-soaked knife. You're damn right they're mine! The troopers lunged. And the forest exploded. The red dragon pack descended like a living firestorm. Flames washed over the raiders. Claws ripped through armor. Wings smashed bodies into trees. It wasn't a battle. It was a purge. Veros landed beside Jonas, his chest glowing with heat. You fought alone. Jonas wiped blood from his face. I wasn't alone. Both hatchlings crawled up his legs, chirping and trembling, but alive. Veros lowered his massive head in acknowledgement. You fought with the fury of our own. Jonas breathed hard. Someone tries to take my kids, I take their entire afternoon away. Veros blinked. Is that a threat? A promise. The flame tyrant's lips curled, almost a smile. Then the sky lit up again. Not dropships. Warships. Several 100 kilometers wide. The Black Talon Empire had come in full force. Veros's expression went cold. Human Jonas hail, this was only their scouting party. Jonas stared at the Titanic ships descending. You mean this wasn't the fight? No, Veros said grimly. The war begins now. And in the glow of alien engines, Jonas felt something awaken, old instincts, old anger, old fire. He placed a hand on each hatchling. Then let's give them a war they'll never forget. The Black Talon warship eclipsed the sun, an obsidian leviathan drifting down from orbit like a guillotine lowered onto a world that had no vote in the matter. Its shadow swallowed valleys. Its engines rattled the mountains. The air tasted like hot metal and old fear. Jonas Hale had felt this before. Different battlefield, different sky, same unmistakable certainty. The enemy had arrived to take everything. But this time, he wasn't a soldier in a doomed war. This time, he was a father with 2 dragon hatchlings pressed against his boots, trembling with instinct deeper than memory. And heaven help whoever threatened them. The red dragon pack formed a defensive semicircle, wings half spread, scales flaring with liquid heat. Veros towered at the center, steam curling from his nostrils. "Human Jonas Hale," the flame tyrant said. "The Black Talon war host descends. Their weapons can level continents. Their generals enslave hatchlings and butcher their guardians. And they come now for these too." Jonas cracked his neck. "Then it's a short trip." Several dragons glanced at one another, confused by the blunt confidence. Veros rumbled. "The human speaks boldly." Jonas wiped his knife on his shirt. "The human is also very, very tired. Which makes him extremely dangerous." A young dragon muttered. "Could we throw the human at them?" "No," Veros growled. "We throw him with us." Jonas snorted. "Romantic." The warship opened. A circular hatch dilated like a pupil. Then the Black Talon emerged, thousands of armored raiders descending in rigid formation, riding anti-grav platforms shaped like skeletal wings. Their leader strode at the center, taller than the rest, armored in obsidian plates etched with the sigils of conquered species. General Korthrax. His voice boomed through an amplifier that made the air thrum. "Red Dragon Pack. You harbor what is mine." Veros bristled. "Nothing here is yours, Carrion Lord." Korthrax extended a blade arm, pointing it directly at Jonas. "He has what is mine." Jonas raised a hand. "I have 2 hatchlings, a knife older than most relationships, and a bad back." "Which one's yours?" Korthrax's mandibles flared. "The hatchlings bear the mark of the sovereign breed. They belong to the Black Talon. You have interfered in a matter beyond your understanding." Jonas stepped forward. "Buddy, I don't need to understand anything except this. They chose me." A murmur rippled through the Black Talon ranks, a mix of anger and genuine confusion. To them, loyalty was programmed, not given. Korthrax lifted both blade arms. "Take them. Kill the human." Jonas exhaled. "Well, that settles dinner plans." The sky detonated. Dragons launched upward in a firestorm of wings and wrath. The Black Talons surged forward, plasma bolts slicing through the trees. Jonas didn't wait to be targeted. He grabbed both hatchlings and rushed into the thick of battle, weaving between dragon legs and jetting alien platforms. A raider swooped toward him. Jonas hurled his knife like a throwing axe. It struck the raider in the throat, sparks spraying as the alien crashed. Another raider dropped behind him. Jonas grabbed its forearm blade, twisted, and snapped it clean off. The alien shrieked. Jonas stared at the broken blade in his hand. "Huh! Better than my knife." He stabbed it through the alien's chest. Above him, dragons and raiders collided in apocalyptic midair clashes, fire meeting plasma, claws rending armor, wings snapping mechanical limbs. Veros tore through enemy formations like a vengeful comet, leaving smoking metal husks raining across the mountainside. Korthrax landed with seismic force, slamming 2 dragons aside with a sweep of his blade arms. His gaze locked on Jonas. "Human," he snarled. "You cannot protect what you do not understand. These hatchlings will bring destruction beyond your species' imagination." Jonas curled an arm around each hatchling. "Then I'll imagine faster." Korthrax lunged. Jonas dodged, barely. The general struck again, and Jonas's stolen blade arm snapped under the blow. Korthrax kicked him backward, slamming him into a tree that cracked down the center. Jonas's ribs screamed. His vision blurred. The general loomed. Weak. Mortal. Unworthy. The hatchlings rushed forward, tiny wings flared, tiny fangs bared. Korthrax raised a taloned foot to crush them. Jonas didn't think, he moved, throwing himself over the hatchlings, taking the blow across his back. Pain exploded white-hot. He roared. You want them, you go through me. A shadow blotted the sky. Veros. The flame tyrant slammed into Korthrax with enough force to crater the ground. The general skidded backward, gouging trenches in the earth. Veros's voice thundered. You dare strike the guardian of the flame brood? Korthrax rose slowly. He is a human. He is theirs, Veros said. And thus he is ours. The pack roared in agreement, a sound like the end of worlds. Jonas wheezed. About damn time you all joined the argument. Veros lowered his head. You held the line alone. Jonas forced a shaky grin. I'm stubborn, not smart. The flame tyrant snorted smoke. A distinction dragons understand. Korthrax screeched and charged again, but this time, he faced not one opponent. He faced a father backed by an entire pack. The dragons descended in unison. Veros led the charge. Jonas followed, picking up a fallen plasma rifle. The hatchlings scampered at his heels, chirping battle cries. It was chaos. It was fire. It was family. And Korthrax could not withstand it. Veros pinned him. Jonas fired the plasma rifle point blank into the general's exposed mandibles. The bolt burned through his skull. Korthrax fell. Silence rippled outward. Black Talon forces faltered. Then broke. Then fled. The warship overhead began to retreat, engines flaring as it pulled back into the upper atmosphere. Jonas raised his rifle and fired a single shot, more symbolic than effective. Tell your empire, he shouted, voice echoing across the mountains. If they come for these kids again, humanity will burn their galaxy down. The dragons roared approval. A chorus. A vow. The warship fled faster. When the smoke finally cleared, Jonas collapsed onto a rock, exhausted, burned, bruised, and grinning like a man who had just punched destiny in the teeth. The hatchlings climbed into his lap, cooing. One nuzzled his cheek. The other curled its tail around his arm. Jonas stroked their warm scales. You too, owe me a beer. Or a herd of cows. Veros approached, shadow stretching long. Human Jonas hail, he said solemnly. You have defended the flame brood with fury unmatched. The pack recognizes you not merely as guardian. He bowed his massive head. But as father of fire. Jonas blinked. That's a hell of a title. It is a burden, Veros said. One that will change your world. Jonas looked at the hatchlings. He thought of the warship fleeing. He thought of the Black Talon threat. He thought of the insane, impossible future now tied to two tiny dragons who'd chosen him. Yeah, Jonas finally said. I figured as much. Veros stepped closer. So, Father of Fire, what will you do next? Jonas smiled, a tired, battered, proud smile. Raise them right. The hatchlings cheered in high-pitched chirps. And, Jonas added, teach them the most important human skill. Veros tilted his head. Which is? Jonas smirked. How to scare the living hell out of anyone dumb enough to underestimate them. The dragons roared laughter. The mountains echoed with it. And Jonas Hale, human, soldier, survivor, guardian, felt something he hadn't felt in a long, long time. Purpose. The kind you build. The kind you bleed for. The kind you protect with fire.